So, you know, he came for the first time Sunday, he was right back to the
Uh-huh.
there was a lot of
Yeah.
people here coming around the room.
Right.
I've been here, I would say, this is like
All
2021.
right. Glad you are here.
Yeah.
So just as a reminder, when we have the children in the sanctuary on Sundays now, we've changed the order of service. So we can front load all the fun content for them at the beginning, and then they'll leave and so if your order of service looks different today, because you're not used to this yet, just relax, go with the liturgical flow, and everything will be cool. We open our service this morning with these words. We come together this morning to remind one another, to rest for a moment on the forming edge of our lives, to resist the headlong tumble into the next moment, until we claim for ourselves awareness and gratitude, taking the time to look into one another's faces and see there the reflection of our own eyes. This community of laughter and silence, memory and hope is hallowed by our presence together. So before we continue with the service, let's take a moment to wave to the people watching from home, and then rise and greet our neighbors or say hello in the chat if you're watching from home. And when you hear the singing bowl bang, return to your seat.
Next time. We'll have to get your, okay, so you press this button. You will hold it. And then we light it like that. Good job. Cool. All right. We are going to say our chalice lighting words. Are you ready? Okay. We are Unitarian, Universalist, with minds that think, hearts that love, and hands that are ready to serve. Thank you. You guys can have a seat.
Our first hymn this morning is number 15 in the gray hymnal, The Lone Wild Bird. Please turn to it and rise as you are able. The words are also in the screen behind the pulpit.
Friends, can I have you join me up here for a story? Yeah, we're ready. Okay, you're going to sit down there so you can see the pictures. I know it is chilly, huh? It's fall, it's chilly. Aster, you want to sit up here so you can see the pictures? We're good? The pictures will be up on the screen too. Okay, so before we start our story, we got to talk about what this big word means. Okay, this story is about diversity. Okay, diversity is really just another word to talk about differences. So in this book, do you see him here? It's a boy named Nick. And Nick gets glasses. And Nick is afraid that his glasses, see them? His glasses are going to make him look different. And he's worried about that because none of his other friends have glasses. And he's going to go to school, and he's worried. Because sometimes, when we come across something that is different, we can do one of two things. First, we could look at it and we could say, oh, that's different. I don't like that. Why is it different? Why is it not the same? And we can be scared of it, or we can make fun of it, because we're uncomfortable.
Make silly of it?
We can make silly of it, we could. But there's another way to look at different, right? The UU way of looking at different. We can look at different and we can say, oh, that's different. How neat. I bet I can learn from that. I bet I can learn something new. Have a seat, Graham. I can learn something new because I've never seen that before. So we're going to figure out which one Nick encounters. Are his friends going to be scared of the different and make fun of the difference, or if his friends are going to think the different is cool? Okay, let's see. It's called Our Diversity Makes Us Stronger. And if you can't see the pictures, it's up there on the screen too. I don't like my new glasses. They're so big, round, and blue. Being different from other kids is something scary and new. So what should I do? Should I hide them in my backpack? Or maybe in my pencil case? I'm afraid everyone will tease me when they see them on my face. Hi, Nick, look, I got new braces. They sparkle in the light. They will make my teeth healthy and help correct my bite. Let's go, hurry up. We don't want to be late for school. And by the way, I like your glasses. I think they're cool. Are they? Maybe being different isn't so bad. Sarah has new braces and she doesn't look sad. Diversity is of value, no matter what others may say. I guess we're all different in some special way. From the skin we live in, to the way we wear our hair, from the God we pray to the food we eat and share. Jason loves his skateboard and Billy rides a bike. Some of my friends go by bus, and me, I like to hike. See all the differences you see in the park? We're going to talk about differences downstairs today. I don't like playing football, even though I'm a boy. Ballet dancing is what brings me happiness and joy. Because of my accent, I sound different from you. But remember, for me, your language is different too. I can't hear very well, but it won't ruin my plans. That's why I learned sign language, by using my hands. Wow, we are so different, and it makes us unique. From the way we smile and walk to the way we speak. Fatima wears a red dot, and Milan has freckles on his face. Without our differences, the world would be a boring place. Every day I respect those who are different from me, and they are as kind to my differences as they can be. We all have different wishes. We dream different dreams. I love nature, so I will protect forests, seas, and streams. One day I will visit the moon and fly to the stars. Maybe I won't get to heal people, but I'm going to heal cars. I want to catch thieves, so I will work with the police. I will be Miss World and take a stand for world peace. I want to be a teacher and work at my school. And I will be a scientist and invent something cool. What also makes us different is how we feel. With the same situation, we differently deal. I don't like to wait in line. It makes me upset. I don't like to wait in line. I'm feeling restless and I'm covered in sweat. I am very patient. I can stay here all day long. I can enjoy the bright sun and sing a happy song. I like to wait with Lily, who always wears different hats. We like to gossip a bit and have fun with our chats. But no matter how different we are, we have the same thing. It's a heart that beats so hard with all the emotions it brings. When we love, we have wings. When we grieve, we cry tears. And people get angry sometimes, and all people have fears. And when we are scared or cry the saddest tears, our family will drive away all sorrows and fears. Some will find refuge in their mom's warm hugs. Some will call their dad to fight the yucky bugs. Does your dad fight the yucky bugs? Yeah, is he in charge of that? Mm-hmm. Some will read the Quran with bliss upon his face. And for some, the Bible will be the peaceful place. For those without parents, a friend will be the one to bring a smile, a giggle, a day full of fun. So whether our skin is yellow, brown, black, or white, or our personality is shy, chatty, naughty, or polite, and our hair is brown, blonde, braided, or curled, all of our differences are welcome in this world. This is who I am. I love everything about me. Accepting myself the way I am makes me feel free. I will proudly wear my glasses every day, all day long. I accept myself and others. Our diversity makes us strong. So, let's go downstairs and keep talking about diversity.
Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati. I'm Dr. Regal. I'm the developmental minister here at First Church. And I want to extend a warm welcome this morning to our visitors, both here and watching online. We're happy to have you with us today. First Church is a place where you can bring your whole self, your full identity, your questioning mind, your expansive heart. We are a community committed to social justice and supporting the various spiritual and ethical paths of our members and friends. If you are visiting with us today, please join us for coffee following the service. And we have coffee in the Allen Hall room, which is a room directly across from the entrance as you entered from Linton Street. Everybody is welcome. Our flowers today are donated by Rebecca Alhino in honor of their 58th anniversary. And today, following the service, around 11:15 or so, we're going to have an opening hearts presentation called Just Desserts, an Avondale history talk. The Just Desserts are desserts, which you can have during coffee hour today. And then Fritz, Casey Leininger, is going to give a lecture today on the history of Avondale. I don't know if you have a more defined version of what you're going to do. That's close enough. And so we'd like to invite you to come back. I think we're going to try and start about 15 minutes after the service. So go have your Just Desserts. Maybe half an hour. That's more likely in a group of Unitarians who are free to talk and drink coffee. Okay, so have coffee hour, have your Just Desserts during coffee hour, and then I'd say a half hour after the service ends, come on back, and we'll probably ring the bell to get you all to come on back into the sanctuary for those of you who can stay with us today. All right, Gary and Kara, do you want to come forward and talk to us about our impending Heart and Hand auction?
Mexican train party.
And Barbara and Allison's pie party.
3.14159. Okay, how about Chris, Rosie's, Doug, and Patricia's barbecue dinner with the Lady Joya Blues Band?
And Tim, Lois, Patricia, and Doug's spring bike ride and chili supper.
And Ted and Kate's warm up with a traditional French dinner. And we can't forget about Linda Miltner's cherry pie.
And Ed Ryder's behind-the-scenes tour of Music Hall.
And Linda Miltner's cherry pie.
Dad, we know you like cherry pie. Carla's crafternoon with lunch to soothe the soul.
And Linda Miltner. Okay. And Patty and Scott's brunch at the Kellys.
Tim's tour of the Harriet Beecher Stowehouse.
And Al's tour of Mercantile Library.
And Anne's tapas dinner at the Fleischers.
And how about Debbie's dinner, night in a log cabin for two, and lunch the following day? And she's offering it 5 times.
Oh my gosh, how generous. And I can't believe it, my dad forgot to mention vouchers for tickets to the Cincinnati Reds.
Well, since you mentioned it, instead I will mention The Art of Charlie Harper, with Brett Harper and Barry Green performing right here at First Church with room for all to attend.
And don't forget, on February 7th, here at First Church, supper and songs with a great meal and wonderful songs and music, a night you won't forget.
And so many other great gifts, food, and great items. A complete listing will be out soon in 32 Auction, our online bidding software, along with print copies if needed.
But wait, Dad. Today is the deadline for donations.
But our meeting is until Tuesday, so members, you have 2 bonus days to donate. And so many people to thank. well, we'll have to do that a different time.
We are looking forward to seeing everyone at the Heart and Hand auction at First Church. Online auction starts November 7th, and the silent auction followed by the live auction starts at 5:30 p.m. on Saturday, November 15th. We can't wait.
So for our meditation this morning, I'm going to read a piece from John O'Donohue entitled For Solitude. And after I read the piece, we're going to have a couple of minutes of silent meditation that I'll mark off again by striking the singing bowl at the beginning and then at the end. John O'Donohue writes, "May you recognize your life, the presence of it, the power of it, the light of it, and your own soul. May you realize that you are never alone, that your soul in its brightness and belonging connects you intimately with the rhythm of the universe. May you realize that the shape of your soul is unique. You have a special destiny here on earth. You have a special destiny here on earth. May you realize that behind the facade of your life there is something beautiful and eternal unfolding. And may you learn to see yourself with the same delight, pride, and expectation with which God sees you in every moment." Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's been a busy week. And usually when I prep sermons, I have time throughout the week to sit with the material I want to share with you. And so I'm able to stand out of the pulpit and graze on the front 40 here and just mostly have spontaneous sermonizing with you all. But I didn't quite have the time to do that this week. And so I decided yesterday, I sat down and I decided I'm going to write this sermon out because I just don't feel the flow for a spontaneous sermon this morning. So I'm going to read the sermon, and I apologize for those of you who prefer the energetic dynamic you get when I'm out front, as opposed to when I'm chained behind the pulpit. I get that feedback a lot, which is why I like to stand in front of the pulpit. But the content this morning is probably more worth your while than watching me stumble through material I haven't quite reflected on as much as I'd like. So what came out were the reflections I got yesterday afternoon and evening. I think they're definitely good grist for the mill, but I'll be chained to my life preserver this morning, if you all don't mind. So what we're doing today is looking at a few proverbs from a book I picked up some time ago called Back to Zanzibar. And this book is actually many proverbs from around the world. And I find this very fascinating because I learned as I have worked my way through this book, periodically over the years, that the proverbs that people from other countries use are often very similar messaging to the proverbs we sometimes use. But not always. Some proverbs, I think, are contextually defined, and I ran across quite a few of those where I thought, I have no idea what that proverb means. So take my interpretations of these proverbs with a grain of salt. They may be accurate, they may not be. But the important thing is whether or not you find my interpretation of these proverbs as meaningful grist for your personal mills. The first one we're going to look at is one that some of you for sure have heard me say before because I actually use this proverb a lot. It's from the Sufi tradition. And the proverb is, "She who has been burnt by the soup blows on the yogurt." She who has been burnt by the soup blows on the yogurt. This is a very deep proverb. I'm fond of this proverb for two reasons. First, which you will not be surprised to hear me say, it speaks to the fact that much of our present behavior is conditioned by our past experience. Painful or punitive experiences will eventually give rise to avoidant behaviors. Pleasurable or rewarding experiences will eventually give rise to attachment behavior. Common sense, right? So how one responds to any situation, whether with avoidance or attachment, can often be traced back to our past experiences. Hence, she who has been burned by the soup will blow on the yogurt. It's very helpful to be able to trace our current behavior back to our past experiences because there's an interesting psychological phenomenon that occurs when we reflect on matters in our past life that drive our current behaviors. When we shine the light of our own awareness on something from our past and have an aha moment or a realized moment, we tend to become free of the entrapment of that past experience. Carl Jung basically says the same thing when he says this, probably my favorite Carl Jung quote. "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, but you will call that fate." A little self-awareness goes a long way. The second reason that I'm fond of this proverb is that if you reverse it, it also reveals a great deal about human psychology. So let's try that. She who has always eaten yogurt will eventually be burned by the soup. In other words, we can become habituated to certain behaviors which, the vast majority of time, do us no harm. But if we become too habituated to certain behaviors, we might fail to see that at some point, the consequences of those habitual behaviors might cost us dearly. The fact that a habituated behavior has never caused problems in the past does not mean that it will never cause problems in the future. For instance, we are often rewarded for being trusting or honest souls. But on occasion, there may be a moment where you might want to hesitate in the presence of the scoundrel you are about being too forthright about matters. You never know who you're going to encounter, so even though our past behaviors have never caused us problems before, it's always good to test the waters rather than just act out of our conditioning. Always, always, always test the water with your toe before you jump in with both feet. And finally, almost every proverb has an antithetical proverb associated with it. As I was thinking about this proverb yesterday, I had several, but what about that proverb? And what about that proverb seems to contradict this wisdom? So one such proverb is, the hair of the dog that bit you. Right? You all know, is that really a proverb or just a saying? The hair of the dog that bit you. If you need a real-world example of this piece of proverbial wisdom, consider the nature of vaccines. Too much of a virus can kill you, but a little bit of a virus can save you. Hair of the dog that bit you. So now here's a proverb from Estonia. Much treasure, many maws. Much treasure, many maws. So when I read this one, it reminded me of Jesus' saying, do not store up for yourself earthly treasures, which moths and vermin destroy, in which thieves break in and steal. Rather, store up for yourselves heavenly treasures, which neither moth nor rust destroy, and which thieves cannot break in and steal. There's great wisdom in this saying. That which is most valuable in life tends to be that which is intangible. Love, forgiveness, patience, and the like. The value of these qualities is enduring. Tangible things, material things, worldly things do not endure. To hook the meaning of one's life on such things is a dubious proposition. Their transience entails suffering, which is the Buddha's second of Four Noble Truths. Don't cling or avoid any life experience that will create suffering. There was great resonance between the Buddha and Jesus' teachings. And though this proverb reminds me of Jesus' saying, I think it contains a somewhat different message. I think the message is the message of proper proportion. In other words, much treasure, many maws does not equate with have no earthly treasures. Rather, I think it equates with treasure only that which you need and not just what you desire. To treasure more than one needs creates certain unnecessary life problem sets. Moths. This might remind you of sermons I've done in the past in which I have mentioned the instinctual life, when I suggested that it is important to distinguish between your instinctual needs, which you need for your survival, and your instinctual desires, which you don't need for your survival, yet they gratify the instincts. So there's a difference between instinctual need, which is a requirement, and instinctual gratification, which creates problem sets, i.e., moths. I kind of hope by now you rather feel that whenever I bring up the instinctual life and talk about the difference between instinctual need and instinctual gratification, you kind of go, yeah, heard it, which means you've gotten the message. But if you think you're tired of me bringing this up so much, let's try it in a different vein. Let's consider the Stoics, those Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius. He was probably the greatest Stoic philosopher of all. And if you have a Sunday afternoon where you're just bored and you don't know what to do, go online and Google the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, and you'll get all sorts of wonderful prescriptions for how to live the Stoic life. Marcus Aurelius said, "Almost nothing material is needed for a happy life, for one who has understood existence." Almost nothing material is needed for a happy life, for one who has understood existence. What seemed second nature to Aurelius was a life lesson of another Stoic philosopher, Epictetus, who had to learn the hard way. Epictetus was born a slave, but he eventually received his freedom, after which he formed a school, which was attended by emperors and other important figures, and before long he found himself making a very good living. And he began to covet the trappings of the good life, like his fellow Greeks. And at one point he purchased a valuable brass lamp, which he kept burning in his household shrine, morning, noon, and night. He loved it so much. It became his prized possession. One night, Epictetus heard a noise downstairs. He rushed down to discover that a thief had stolen his prized lamp. He was shocked, disappointed, and felt violated that someone would enter his home and steal his most prized possession. But then he caught himself, remembering his own teaching, and he said to himself, "Tomorrow I shall get a cheaper, less attractive lamp made of clay." It's wise counsel in this. Loss and sorrow exist only in proportion to the things we own. Epictetus kept that clay lamp for the rest of his life as a reminder to avoid gratuitous material attachment. All right, one more. This last proverb comes from Tanzania. Numerous calls confuse the dog. Numerous calls confuse the dog. Well, the meaning of this proverb depends, I think, on whether one assumes the perspective of the one who calls the dog or the dog. From the perspective of one who calls the dog, I can share that it's very frustrating to have multiple people calling my dog at the same time. As most of you know, I'm an impassioned dog person. And as some of you know, I am quite diligent about the nature of my relationship with my dog, Godot. And this is because I understand dogs' pack instincts and train my dogs accordingly. Most people who have dogs never bother to learn about the nature of the dog pack instinct. And so training often goes afoul if it happens at all. But if you understand pack instinct, then you can train your dog very well. So part of what it means is that it's important, it's vital for a dog to know who is the alpha of the pack. From the outside, this can look like a rather dictatorial relationship with one's dog. On occasion, I will go, "Godot." And Godot will come back to me and sit at my feet or lie at my feet. And people look at me like, how can you be so sharp with that beloved animal? Well, dogs have to know who's the alpha in their pack. You don't think of yourselves as a pack. I guarantee you, your dog does. And it wants to know who's in charge, because that makes them feel secure. Not to mention that knowing their place in the pack, if I know who the alpha is, I know where I am in the hierarchy, also helps them know how to behave and remain safe among humans. Because if a dog doesn't know its place in the pack, and it periodically contends to be the alpha in a pack, it might run afoul of humans, and then the dog's in trouble. From time to time, I find myself in public with Godot, and Godot, being such a charming fellow, as you all know, we tend to get a fair amount of attention. Or at least Godot tends to get a fair amount of attention. And that is, one or two or three other people start calling his name because they want his attention. And when this ensues, it happens every time, Godot gets confused about the pack hierarchy. And he's no longer sure where he falls in the pack and how to behave accordingly. He suffers anxiety when there's more than one alpha demanding his attention. So as a side note, this is why dog parks in general are one of the least safe places for your dog. Anyway, the lesson to be drawn here relative to this proverb is this, I believe. Only call your own dog. And I suspect you can extrapolate that to your own real life experiences. Only call your own dog. Stay in your lane, if you've heard that before. Now, if one assumes the perspective of the dog, one enters into the confused mind of an animal being pulled in many different directions at once. The same holds true with humans. More often than we would like to admit, we are confused. We are pulled in many different directions at once. Although with humans, what usually calls us is our penchant to succumb to the gaze of the other that you've heard me talk about, or to those objects that allure us with instinctual gratification. These are powerful forces in our lives, to resist which is no mean feat, and which not to resist compromises character. We can behave like confused dogs. Character demands that we resist the many forces that call us, that we direct our own lives by our own inner necessity. That force of life that I think is a proper motivation at all times, rather than outside influences, the gaze of the other, to which we try to adjust all the time, rather than living from our own inner necessity. Those objects of instinctual gratification that we just can't resist, rather than staying seated in ourselves and living from our own inner necessity. This requires a great deal of self-discipline, and indeed, disciplining your attention is one of the primary early goals in the spiritual journey. If you're going to have a spiritual journey, that includes a spiritual practice. Some of you have heard me talk about this before. But discipline is integral to character. And the key to that is managing your attention. In the words of William James, the faculty of voluntarily bringing back a wandering attention over and over again is the very root of judgment, character, and will. No one is compos sui, master of oneself, if he have it not. That is such an important life lesson. I'm going to read it again. The faculty of voluntarily bringing back a wandering attention over and over again is the very root of judgment, character, and will. No one is compos sui, master of oneself, if he have it not. All right, I could talk a lot about attention, but I'm going to stop there in the name of sermonic discipline and time. So I'm now going to invite us to turn to hymn 1011 in the teal hymnal, Return Again. Rise as you are able, and let's sing it through 2 times. Okay? Seated. As a reminder, after our Just Desserts coffee hour, Fritz is going to give us a lecture on the history of Avondale. And why don't we just call it an 11:30 sharp start time, because that's about 34 minutes from now. We're going to end our service and extinguish the chalice to the words of Mary Oliver. One day you finally knew what you had to do. You finally knew what you had to do. And you began, though all the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice. Blessed be. Namaste.